Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I want to share past stories from my experience, hoping that there might be lessons that you can take from these for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to take you all the way to 2008 or 2007. The market is booming in Dubai, right? And everybody, left, right, center, is buying. It's kind of like that crypto rush of 2020 when there were meme coins and real coins and everything, right? And that's how the Dubai market was in the throes of 2006 and 2007 and 2008. It was kind of like everybody was doing real estate, to the extent that people who had jobs in corporate sector, they'd stopped working and they had gone into real estate. It just felt like the money was too easy to make, right? You could go in, make a booking, and then flip for a profit pretty much the same day or the next day, or so on and so forth. There was a little bit of a game on how it was played. And so me and my partner back in 2008 got involved in the market as well. There's a little bit of a longer story around it, so I don't want to share the full story. I want to share the lesson, okay? We had some basics and basic information. We went to the top developers, got invited to the top launch event. But then right in the launch event, we got FOMO'd, like we had this fear of missing out, and we ended up booking apartments. The trick was that once we had booked, we were too greedy, trying to make 30% profit, whereas we could have just resold at 5% or 10% profit. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't have reinvested our money and then still been stuck when the global financial crisis finally hit Dubai end of 2008. But the point I'm trying to make is that we didn't understand the full rules of the game, right? We kind of like just followed the masses blindly. Now, here's the thing. Like, if, for example, you see everybody like the masses, the sheep, are going down a certain way, there's always going to be some people in that crowd who are going to be leading everybody or being with everybody, but they've got another plan. They've got another plan. So maybe, for instance, let's imagine that everybody's going into the circus. These guys are just there to get in, and they're just going to exit through the next door that they find, like quick exit right. Now, if you follow the masses in the market, well, whatever investment that's happening in, whether it's Bitcoin, real estate, following the masses is a mistake. Don't do it because everybody else is doing it. Do it because you have another plan. Don't do it because everybody else is doing it. And that's the lesson we learned from that, because that investment that we made in 2008, one of them was a complete write-off. The other, we didn't get any money back until 2012. We learned a good lesson, alhamdulillah, right? We say that. Like, and what's the lesson I want to share with you in particular is don't follow the masses. Instead, do your own due diligence. And my recommendation is, if you're following the masses, connect yourself to that one guy you see, he knows what he's doing, right? So hold his hand and say, look, I'm coming with you. Can you keep guiding me? Obviously, he's not the one and know all, right? He doesn't know perfectly everything that's happening in the world. Still keep your eyes open, but at least you know when he says exit, you can exit, okay? That's one thing. So don't follow the masses. And if you do end up, learn from your mistakes, right? Now, I'm going to tell you something else. Another story. So this is from 2013, and this is the importance of having things in writing. This is 2013. I was helping one of my mentors sell some apartments for him, and this was in Silicon Oasis. And I still remember the apartment we sold was a 2-bedroom apartment, and the person who was living there, actually nobody was permanently living there. It was just a bunch of guys who were living a bachelor lifestyle. They weren't living a bachelor lifestyle. They were in school in Dubai, but they were from another city. Okay, so they were from Abu Dhabi, Al Ain, and stuff like that. And so they were just in school in Dubai. They were mature adults, and there was nothing wrong happening in the apartment. They just used to use it as a crash pad for themselves and their friends. Like, when you walked into this 2-bedroom in Dubai Silicon Oasis, I think I remember, like, it had, bless these guys, bless these brothers, I think it had like 10 or 12 like foam mattresses just hanging over there, like just there, like, which just pretty much told me, like, you know, when they're there for school, they just have their friends hang around with them, and anybody who's not feeling like, oh, we got to drive back to Al Ain or Abu Dhabi tonight because they might have a class the next morning at 8 a.m., They just crash over there, right? So I told them, and the guy who was buying this apartment had this one requirement. Hey, Fahd, I still remember the guy's name. May Allah bless him. He said him and his spouse wanted to move into the apartment. So these guys just told me like, hey, we'll just move out. Don't worry about it at all. So they said, like, they gave me a handshake and we said, and the guy who bought the apartment, I said, look, they've given me their word they're going to move out. Now, here's what happened. Something happened in the middle of the market, which is rents kind of like screamed out of control. So they were, I think, paying about 45,000 dirhams at that time. And all of a sudden, rents went up to 80,000 dirhams or 85,000 dirhams for a similar apartment in Silicon Oasis, like in a matter of 6 months. These guys just told me, refused. I'm not moving out. Sorry, just not going to move out. Oh my God. Now the problem comes to me, right? Because I sold the apartment. I kind of gave my word. I didn't put anything in writing, but you know, you're kind of like morally, ethically responsible, and you've got to help the new buyer. So I went along. I went to see these guys. As I told you, they were in university. They would not be there most of the week. And I went to see the main guy, like the main guy. He was a nice guy, okay? Very nice guy. And I told him. And he was studying law. It's interesting because technically I couldn't ask him to leave, right? Technically he had the right to stay there for another year. But technically the new buyers bought on the word he gave me that I gave them. So I just told him, listen, you gave me your word. You gave me your word. And back in the day, your elders' word and this tongue meant something. And I gave my word to this new guy. Now, what do you want me to tell this family? You're going to break your word and I can't hold my word that I gave them? So I gave him this. And alhamdulillah, he listened. And he said, okay, I'm going to move out. But, you know, Father. And then moving them out was a difficult challenge. Like, they wouldn't pay for the movers and they wouldn't, like, you know, because I told you, like, half the stuff was their friends just crashing there. So I think we ended up arranging the movers and we ended up paying for the movers, or the new owner paid for the movers. We just got them out so that they could end up living there, okay? There's another story, similar time, 2013, not 14. We're talking about 11 years ago. Again, rents were screaming out of control. And there was a 2-bedroom I'd sold in Jumeirah Lake Towers. Again, it was one of my mentors I was helping. And the guy who was living there, he was a gentleman, nice guy. And he said, yeah, I'll move out. All of a sudden, while we're in the process of closing the transaction, he was a lovely, nice guy. His neighbor told him, like, hey, you don't need to move out. And the thing is, now I'm going to come to the lesson from this. My mentor used to operate like this. People would tell him things and he just on their tongue, like, just trust them, right? And what ended up happening, this guy pulled the same thing. Like, his neighbor said, you don't need to move out. I think he was about paying 80,000 for a 2-bedroom in Jumeirah Lake Towers, 80,000 dirhams for Jumeirah Lake Towers at that time. And all of a sudden, the market was 100,000 dirhams, right? Or 110,000 dirhams. So he's like, no, I'm not moving out. So, oh my God, we sold the apartment to the new guys who wanted to move in. Then I had like a roundtable meeting with the new guys who were there, and this guy said, okay, listen. Anyways, we came to an understanding, and the understanding was that he'll pay more in rent, and for sure he'll move out after 1 year. And this was back in the day when we didn't have eviction notices and all of that stuff streamlined, like you give a 1 year notice and so on and so forth. And people had less information. So a lot of things were happening and changing. What did I learn from this? Put things in writing. There's so many stories that I can recount to you. Landlord said this. Buyer said this, tenant said this. Now, what ends up happening is, as things go forward, situations change, right? And as situations change, people's circumstances change, and they become victims of their own circumstances sometimes. So you can't dictate to them, right? So if this guy felt that he could save 30,000 dirhams and he didn't need to move out, or 40,000 dirhams and he didn't need to move out, plus he had a small baby and all of that, then it was very simple. He just didn't need to move out. It was very simple like that, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Put things in writing. Last but not the least, I'm going to share another story. This was more recent, during the pandemic or post-pandemic. One of my VIP clients, we did several deals together, really picked up choice-cessed apartments across the board. And this was one of the largest private developers. And I would say we negotiated very hard. Like, the apartments that are today selling for 1.4, we picked it up for about 700,000 dirhams. And I think they were trying to get us to buy it for $1 million dirhams, and we said, look, we can give you cash. And there are tips and tricks that I use to try to negotiate and try to get bottom price. Like, you got to show the buyer, the developer, the money. Like, you've got to say, we're ready to go. Here is the money. Here's the check. So I think we ended up paying them 735,000 dirhams, and even the Dubai Land Department registration fees was not paid by us. But it was good because, it was right March 2020, like lockdown was coming in, right? So when lockdown was coming in, developers were like, okay, let's just get some cash in. So we got some paid them this cash. And lo and behold, a few days later, when the sales and purchase agreement comes through, the brilliance of this apartment tower was that the tower was ready. Like, that's the brilliance of this. Like, subhanallah, we got a ready apartment, 1 bedroom in Business Bay for about 700,000 dirhams. Price of this is easily like 1.2, 1.4 today, maybe even more, 1.6, 1.7. But the point is, when the sales and purchase agreement comes through, I glanced through it. Generally speaking, we don't go like really deep because the sales and purchase agreement, generally speaking, have pretty much standard terms. But I went and looked at it, and the parking, which by law they should be giving to the 1 bedroom, was not included. I think they felt like, okay, we'll sell the apartment at this price, and then later on we'll just charge them for more parking, which was kind of like ridiculous. Alhamdulillah, it's from God that I had that. Allah blessed me with the ability to go through the SPA, and I looked at it, and then the parking was missing. Whoa, this is not cool. And so we addressed that. They got the parking included, and later I was sitting with one of their marketing managers, and I said, come on guys, don't make such mistakes. They're not good to miss out the parking. And he said, we didn't miss out the parking, we deliberately didn't want to give parking. And that's that. You caught it, and you got the parking. That's like a 50,000 dirham minimum. Actually, not 50, probably 100,000, because in Business Bay, that's what the developer would have sold that parking for, like 150,000 dirhams. Good. 3 lessons. The lesson from this story is read what you're signing. Read the particulars. Try your best to read, or have somebody else read it. Look, there's a link below. You can click it, fill up the form. You can start working with us. Remember to hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. Show some love in the comment section. 3 lessons I've shared today. Don't follow the masses. If you do, know what you're doing, or get attached to the person who knows what they're doing. Number 2, put things in writing, whether it's with your tenant or landlord. Last but not the least, read what you're signing. Ciao for now.